Hello and welcome to another video in the Unix Induction series. What we're going to be doing now is looking at file editing inside Terminal. So I know most of you may have edited files before, but the difference with this one is we'll be using the terminal as opposed to a GUI editor. Okay, so let's start off by opening our favorite application. Again, we're going to make it full screen with F11 and just zoom in with Control+. So now we've got a nice screen to work with. I'm going to do the first two commands. Again, always the same two commands, pwd to know where we are, and ls to see what's in the current folder. As always, if you haven't watched the previous videos, please go back and do so, unless you are already comfortable with the subject material. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a folder for testing, and we're going to call this test. So again, just using commands learned in the previous tutorial, mkdir or make directory test, then change directory into that folder. So what we're going to be doing today is comparing two main editors. One, known as Pico, is quite simple, and another, known as Vim, is a little bit more complex. So in the interest of, just fun and safety, we're going to start with a simple editor first. That's Pico. The way these editors work is the name of the editor, which is represented by a Unix command, i.e. Pico, P-I-C-O, space the name of the file you wish to edit. So as you may have noticed, when I ran the ls command, there's nothing in this folder already. This folder is completely empty. It's good to create an empty folder, gives us an idea of what we're working on. So we create an empty folder, we run the command pico, space the file we wish to edit, such as file1. What we'll see is our terminal will change and will be open to what seems to be an editor inside a terminal. The big difference to this is if you notice if I minimize the terminal, we can see that the editor is constantly inside the terminal, it's not escaping it, we can't really use the mouse. Again, it's still very much command line only, but this allows us to edit files inside the terminal without having any overhead or any GUI whatsoever. So what you may notice initially is that Nano or Pico, both the same or very similar, look very similar to Notepad, standard notepad.exe inside Windows. So what we can see here is the place where I can type some text. As you can see, I'm just going to type some text as an example. And down the bottom we have our options. So we've got, for example, get help, write out, read file, previous page, cut text, current position, exit, justify, where is, next page, uncut, and to spell. The reason this editor is simpler than other editors is they give you the commands down the bottom. So when you're starting off and you're new to this environment and you're unsure which editor to use, if ever asked to edit a file, you can simply use Pico. For example, to edit a file, Pico, file name. And this will be a very simple editor, again, because it gives you those instructions down the bottom. Whenever you wish to save a file, you can simply look down here and go, which is save, write out, i.e. write the contents that's on the screen out to the file. And this little hat symbol here, which I'll draw on the screen, this hat symbol is equal to control. Or if you're a fan of The Simpsons, control. So what we're going to do here is control O, and this will then ask us to prompt and confirm the name of the file we wish to save to. So in case we opened Pico space the incorrect file name, we can now change it here, or we can say this is the file I wish to save to, and then press enter to accept. What you can see here is we've now currently wrote 5 lines, i.e. we've saved these 5 lines to the file, file1. The next step will be to exit and to make sure those file changes have been applied to the file. So for example, just looking down the bottom again, we can see the options. I'm going to go down to exit and use Control plus X. There we go. Returning back to terminal, if I use the ls command, we can see that file1 has been created. This is quite handy now that we know that Pico is working. We can also use a command known as cat, C-A-T, space the name of the file. What this command does is it dumps the contents of file1 to terminal, allowing us to see that the changes we made using Pico have been applied. Awesome. So what we can see here is the example text, the explanation of how to edit a file, i.e. Pico space file name, and then just a minor note that that little hat symbol means control. So what we can see here is with Pico, we can use this to edit as many files as we want. It's very much like using Notepad, just simply without a mouse. And then we can again save with Control O, and then confirm the name of the file, confirm that the one line was saved, exit, and then we can use cat to dump that content to terminal. And that's how you would edit files using one of the more classic and simple editors, Pico. Hopefully, by this example, when given the question or the task inside a lab or a tutorial, can you please edit a file in Unix, Simply by following these steps, you'll be able to edit any plain text file in any Unix system. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, that's all well and good, but I want an editor that's a bit faster, a bit more flash, has a bit more kind of hotkeys, but is less user-friendly. Now, again, with this editor, which is known as Vim, it's a little bit more complicated. So I would only recommend people to undertake or use Vim if they're feeling confident or having a good day. Vim is an editor that does lead to people breaking keyboards, so please make sure that you are calm and understand that it does have a bit of a steep learning curve. It is encouraged that if you're new, that you use Pico, but if you're feeling a bit more adventurous and you feel like something a bit more of a challenge, Vim is a good option too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up Vim on File 2. Now the first thing you'll notice compared to Pico is there are no hotkeys down the bottom. If anything, it looks very plain, very simple, and everything is done from memory. And so what happens with Vim and how it's different to Pico is you have what's known as command mode and then the mode you enter. So for example, press escape and that takes us to command mode. If I press I, you'll notice down the bottom it says insert. So now I can type text. If I press escape again, I go back to command mode. Now command mode allows me to do a lot of different things compared to Pico. For example, if I press escape, YY, this will yank or copy the entire line. Then if I press escape and P, I can then paste that line as many times as I like. But let's say I want to do, and it's very creative and allows you to do a lot more complex tasks. For example, let's say I would like to delete 3 lines above me. Escape, D, 3 up. And that way we can remove all lines, 3 lines above and the line I was currently on. Vim, when compared to Pico, allows you to work faster if you know the hotkeys. It's very, very important to stress that the best editor for you is the one that allows you to work the fastest and the most efficiently while making the fewest mistakes. You can see people use Vim very quickly and it's very impressive, but ultimately if you find you're frustrated by an editor such as Vim, then I would highly recommend using Pico instead, as it's better to get the work done than to get frustrated by the editor you're using. So there are lots of different things you can do with Vim. There's insert, append, copy, paste, remove, a regex, search, and lots of other different functions. What we will be doing on this disk is under the documentation folder on your desktop. If you look in there, there will be a Vim cheat sheet that will help you with any and all commands while you're getting started. There's also, if you go to Google, you'll be able to find Vim backgrounds available online, and you can set that as your background. That will provide a very good resource for looking up references. Again, with Vim, you can either look at the manual pages as well. So what I'm going to do now is to save this file, escape, semicolon X, and now I'm going to type man space Vim. And what we can see in the manual pages is instructions on how to use the editor, different flags, different options, as well as a run through on what all the different buttons do while in command mode. So just so you know, you can get information from Google about Vim, you can get it from this Live City, and you can get it from the manual pages. But just to reiterate, so we're 100% clear on the same page, I'm going to use Vim to explain this actually. So in Vim, just to explain the difference between the two editors quite simply, is Pico is the simple editor that provides on-screen help. Vim is the advanced editor that requires you to know the hotkeys. So if Pico is simple, what's the benefit of Vim? Well, Vim is faster the better you understand it, and also Vim or VI is available on more systems. So ultimately use whichever is best for you. But again, it really comes down to personal preference. So you'll have a lot of people trying to tell you which is best for you and what's best, what's the fastest. But all they're really telling you is which one they prefer. For you to truly know which one will best serve your purposes is for you to try both Pico and Vim and then make a decision yourself. So this has been File Editing in Unix. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And again, like all videos, we encourage you to practice as much as possible until you get comfortable using both either Pico or Vim. For your degree, it is required that you have understanding of at least one file editor. I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you for watching.